Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
What's up guys, I'm Andy from 1A Auto. Today I'm going to be installing these brakes on this 2013 Ford F250. If you need these parts or other parts for your vehicle, click the link in the description and head over to 1aauto.com. All right, we want to take the center cap off. I'm just going to take a rag and a pry bar, get behind here. There's a little slot, and because I don't want to scratch the wheel, just pry it out. And I can just grab it with my hand and pull it off. Now I'm going to take a 22mm socket and a breaker bar. I'm going to loosen up these lug nuts. Just going to break them free. Now we're going to raise and support the vehicle. We're using a 2-post lift. If you're doing this at your house, you can use a jack and jack stands. Right, I'll take the lug nuts off, and I can hit the tire a little bit. Get it to come loose, slide it off. Right, we're going to take these caliper bolts out. It's recommended that you take the top bolt out first and then the bottom bolt. And we're going to use a 16mm socket and a ratchet. Take that bolt out and then take this one out. You may have to hold on to the slide pin if it starts spinning, because otherwise it'll just spin like that. Just hold it with my fingers. You can use a pair of pliers if you need to. Pull that bolt out also. Next I'm going to take a straight blade screwdriver. You can use a pry bar for this, and I'm just going to compress the caliper a little bit. I'm just sliding the screwdriver in here, in between the fins on the rotor, just prying out a little bit. That's just loosening up on the caliper so I can slide it off. Just like that. And I'll take a bungee cord, slide it through the spring, and hold the caliper, go through the holes. Set this aside. That'll keep the tension off of the brake hose, because you don't want to just let the caliper hang from the brake hose. I'm going to remove the pads. I can use the straight blade screwdriver. Just slide these off. Set these aside. Slide the other one off. Now I'm going to remove these 2 caliper bracket bolts. I'm going to use a 21mm socket and a breaker bar. Now when doing this job, it's recommended that you replace these 2 bolts. Break these free. Alright, now that they're loose, I'm going to use a ratchet and just take the bolts out. Alright, now that these are loose, take these out. Pull that one out. Slide the bracket off. I want to get this rotor off. This is rusted on there a little bit, so I'm going to take one of the lug nuts, slide that on there. Then I'm going to take a hammer and I'm going to hit all in between these areas until the rotor breaks free. Oh, here we go. Take the lug nut off. Slide the rotor right off. All right, before we put the rotor on, we want to clean this hub area. There's some rust right here. That's why it was difficult to get the rotor off. take a wire brush and clean this. Right around here, and also the rusted section over here, outer edge. Right there in the middle is not going to affect it, so that's not a big deal. All right, we're going to clean up this caliper bracket. I'm just going to use the wire brush right here on these pad clips, brake pad clips. Clean these up. And I'll take a straight blade screwdriver, take the clips off. If there's anything underneath here, you can just clean on the back side. Slide these off. A little bit of rust, not too bad. And then right here, clean this rust up. And we'll take these clips, slide these back on. They only go on one direction. There's a back one and then a front one. This little tab is different. This flatter piece goes in the middle. Just slide that on. Make sure they're pushed all the way down. Next, we're going to take these caliper pins out. Just slide these off. We're going to take some brake parts cleaner. Clean this off. Wipe it down with a rag. Just like that. And in this caliper bracket, we'll just spray some brake cleaner down this slide hole. Clean this out. And we'll take some brake grease, brake caliper grease. Put some on the pin. Then we'll slide the pin back into the hole. Make sure the boot is seated. We'll do the same for the other side. These are our old brakes. These are our new brakes from 1aauto.com. As you can see, the brake pads have the same shape and design. Flip them over, same design for the pad material. The rotors are the same height. They have the same cooling fins, same thickness. Get yours at 1aauto.com and you'll be ready to rock and roll. All right, before I install the rotor, I'm going to take some brake parts cleaner and just clean off the surface and then wipe it with a rag because there is a chemical on here that prevents it from rusting. Just get that coating off. Flip the rotor over. Do the same on this side. And wipe it with a rag. All right, now take the rotor, slide it over the studs. Make sure it goes all the way down. I'm just gonna take one of the lug nuts, slide this over. That'll prevent the rotor from falling off. And it'll keep it secure. And we're gonna slide this caliper bracket over. Take these caliper bolts. Install these bolts. It's recommended that you replace these bolts. We're gonna reuse ours. And I'll take a 21mm socket and a ratchet. And just start to tighten these down. Snug those up. Now I'm going to use a torque wrench with the 21mm socket, and I'm going to torque these to 166 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to install these new brake pads. I'm going to be careful not to be touching the pad surface if you have greasy hands. I'm going to take a little bit of brake caliper grease and just slide it on the pins right here, on the ends. Just like that. And we'll slide it into the caliper bracket. Just like that. We'll do the same on the inside. Get this lined up. Now I'll take the caliper, remove the bungee cord, slide this out. I'm going to flip the caliper over. Just take some of that stuff off. I'm going to take the old brake pad, slide this into position. I'm going to use this brake caliper compressor tool. We actually sell these at oneaauto.com. Now this is generally for a single piston caliper, but because I use the brake pad in this position, I can use it on a dual piston. So I'll just go back and forth slowly to both sides. Now while I'm doing this, this is pushing brake fluid through the brake hose, through the brake lines, back up into the master cylinder and into the reservoir. So it's a good idea to check your reservoir after you do this job and adjust the fluid level accordingly. All right, so we've gone back and forth very slow a couple times, and this caliper, the piston, looks like it's all the way down. You want to check the boots, make sure the boots haven't popped out at all. If they have, you want to push them back in with like a small screwdriver. I'm going to flip this over. Make sure the caliper hose is not twisted at all. We'll slide this over the caliper bracket. Just like that. Now we'll install the caliper bolts. All right, I'm going to snug these up with a 16mm socket and a ratchet, and then I'm going to torque them. I'm going to hold the pin so it doesn't spin on this one. Just snug that up. Then I'm going to use the torque wrench. I'm going to torque these to 55 foot-pounds. And I'm going to start with the bottom one first. It's important to start with the bottom one on this vehicle because it makes sure the pin lines up properly. And then torque the top one, same 55 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to take this lug nut off. And we'll reinstall the wheel. Take the lug nut. Now we're going to torque these lug nuts to 165 foot-pounds. And we're going to torque them in a star pattern so that the wheel gets tightened down properly. Now after we torque the wheels, we're going to take this center cap, line it up with the lugs. We'll tap it on. You can use a rubber mallet to help tap it on. After we do the brake job, what we're going to want to do is pump the brake pedal because there's going to be an air gap between the piston and the brake pads. So this will eliminate that air gap and you'll be good to go.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneaauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.